Hi friends, so today we're going to be reading a book called Oscar and the Snail, and it's a book about things we use, and it explains how some things work that you might have questions about. It is by Geoff Waring. One morning, Oscar was out in the garden exploring. He found a nest. This is a nest. And a nest is where birds go to keep safe, or where they go to lay their eggs. Along slid Snail. The birds are building it to keep their eggs safe, Snail said. What do they make it from? Oscar asked. Different things, Snail said. The outside needs to be strong to keep out the weather, so birds use twigs and leaves and roots for that job. Have you ever went outside and seen a bird nest before? The inside needs to be soft to sit in, Snail went on, so they use moss and spider webs for that job. And feathers, said Oscar. Oh yes, said Snail. Feathers help to hold the air in. I didn't know that. Did you know that? Feathers are used not only to keep warm, but to hold the air in for the birds so they're able to breathe. And they keep the nest warm. Just then, a loose feather blew away. Oh no, here's the nest, and the feather flew out of the nest, and it blew away all the way, and it landed in a bowl of water. It's floating, said Oscar. Oscar pushed a stone into the bowl. Look, there's Oscar. It says, splash. He pushed a stone into the bowl. Why isn't the stone floating? He asked. Stones are heavy and don't have air in them, so they sink, Snail said. A feather is light and has air inside, so it floats. Have you ever done anything like this? You can get a bowl of water and you can try different things at home, placing it in the bowl and seeing if it floats. Oscar saw some more stones in the vegetable patch. They're all different colors, he said. Yes, said Snail, they feel different too. Some are rough and some are smooth, but all of them are heavy and useful for keeping the netting weighed down. See how they have the stones right here to keep the netting down to protect the plants. It started to rain. Oh no. Brr, Oscar said, shivering. My fur's getting wet. I wish I had a shell like you. It's true, Snail said. My shell does help keep me dry, but let's go to the greenhouse so that you can be dry and warm too. Do you know what a greenhouse is? This is what a greenhouse looks like. It looks like it's made out of glass windows. Look, you can see through the walls, Oscar said. They're made of glass, Snail said. Glass is strong like my shell, so it can keep out the rain and shelter young plants. And glass is clear, so it lets light through, which is good for the plants because plants need light to grow. The sunlight warms the air inside the greenhouse, Snail went on, helping young plants grow. Where does glass come from? Oscar asked. Glass is made out of sand, Snail said, like the sand in this pile. There's the sand. If you make sand very hot, the grains melt together and become stretchy and clear. When it cools down, it sets hard and is glass. Did you know that glass was made out of sand? There's so much sand out on our beaches. I bet you could take a bunch of that sand and heat it up, and then eventually it would turn into glass too. Snail told Oscar about some other materials that are made. Logs of wood are broken into tiny pieces, then squashed and rolled flat again and again to make paper. When oil from deep underground is heated, it makes chemicals that can be mixed together to make plastic. Seeds of wheat are ground into flour, then mixed with water and yeast to be baked into bread. Clay, sand, and water are mixed together and baked in a very hot oven to make bricks. Wool from sheep can be combed and spun into yarn to make cloth. So these are all things that you use all the time. And Oscar and Snail are showing us how those things are made. They're made from our natural resources that we find outside and all around us. Just then, Poppy put her head around the door. "It looks nice and dry in here," she said. Here's Poppy. "It's warm too," Oscar said. "You see, greenhouses are made out of glass," and he told her about all the useful things he'd found out that morning. So Oscar is using his knowledge that he just learned to tell Poppy all about it. That's something that you can do too. With the knowledge that you've learned from this book, you can go and tell your friends about it. Thinking about things that we use. In the garden, Oscar found out about choosing materials. Living creatures use different materials to do different jobs. So what are some materials that we found out about that animals use? So birds use twigs to keep out the weather for their nests. And they use moss that is soft to sit in. Can you guess what some of the things you use are made out of? So let's think. So for breakfast this morning, you might have eaten cereal. Well, let's think about what that's made out of. It could be made out of grains that come from the earth. Or let's think about what this book was made from. This book is made out of paper, and we learned in this book that paper is made from trees. Using one material has several different qualities. A feather is soft and light and keeps in warmth. Find something nearby. Can you discover what its different qualities are? So let's look around. I have a blanket. Can we figure out what its qualities are? It's soft, it's warm, it's kind of like the feather. Where materials come from? Some materials are found in the natural world. So like twigs and stones. We could go outside right now and we can find twigs and stones. And some other materials are made. Glass is made out of sand, like we learned in the book. On your next walk, look out for things that are natural and things that are made. So one thing that you can look whenever you're exploring outside on your next walk, let's look around for different things outside that you might think that are used to make other things that you might use daily. Oscar thinks the things that we use are great. Do you think so too? I think they're great. And that is the end. Thanks for reading along with me, friends. I hope you learned a whole bunch.